They're healers. The forest people are healers. You see my left leg right here? Early on when I met Cynthia, she was wonderful and allowed me to skip a Valentine's dinner with her, postpone it, so I could play in a City League basketball game. I shouldn't have done it, that's right. It was in 2012, right? And I'm playing against these 20 and 30-year-olds who are playing against the 50-year-old. And they're beating on me because I'm 6'9" and over 300 pounds. And I'm like, no. So I start throwing these 20 and 30-year-olds all over the floor, which ticks them off. So I dive for a loose ball, and one of them steps on the back of my leg and totally severs my Achilles tendon. That's it. There goes my basketball career. That's the first time I've ever had an injury, other than breaking my nose against the Olympic team in Brazil. My left leg becomes a balloon leg for 3 years. It's an elephant leg for 3 years. Seriously, elephant leg. Thick, swollen up. Eventually, my primary care physician refers me to a vascular surgeon who has his gal do an ultrasound on me, and she's checking my left leg with the ultrasound. She greases it up, and she's checking my left leg, and she goes, "Oh my God." Cynthia and I are there. What? Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying that. Oh my God. I'm like, what? And then she checks my right leg. Oh, that's okay. That's good. Let's check down. Oh my God. So she leaves the room. She's talking with the vascular surgeon out in the hallway. We can't tell what they're saying. He comes back in the room. He sits down and he says, "Let me begin by telling you just how lucky you are." And I'm like, what? And he says, "You should be dead. You had what I would diagnose as a big-ass DVT. You had what I would call a huge blood clot between your groin and your knee. And if you came into my office with that blood clot between your groin and your knee, I would tell you to get your affairs in order because you're going to die. Because if I try to surgically remove it, you're dead. If I try to give you medication to dissolve it, you're dead. If it breaks up on its own, you're dead. You should be dead. That should have broken up and gone to your heart, gone to your brain, gone to your lungs. You should be dead." I've never seen this in 25 years of being a vascular surgeon. This is a miracle. You should be dead. Well, after listening to that for 45 minutes, Cynthia and I dismissed him from our appointment because we had other things to do. How many of you have dismissed your doctor from their appointment? He was just blown away. He kept saying, "You should be dead, you should be dead, you should be dead, you should be dead." He was blown away. A couple months later, Cynthia and I are up at SOA. It's over 100 degrees during the day. It drops down to 70 at night. We have our sleeping bags opened up, and we have a sheet over the top of us so we're not cooking at night. And in the middle of the night, I get zapped. Remember, I'm not fully right under, but I'm not fully awake. I'm halfway. And I feel this hand from my groin going down to my knee and back to my groin and down to my knee and back to my groin, and I feel this energy going on. And after a few minutes, I hear this forest person, this squatch, say to somebody else, "His leg is still okay. His leg is still okay." And I'm like, "What? You guys healed my leg?" And then his hand goes to my crotch. And no, it wasn't sexual. And his hand is there for a few minutes, and I feel this energy. And then he says to the other one, "His prostate is still okay." Now, what you don't know is at the age of 35, 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostatitis, and I almost ended up in the hospital twice, which is a young age to be diagnosed with prostatitis. And my levels, my PSA levels almost got to the point of cancerous where they were going to go in and take a biopsy. But now my levels are completely normal. And then the hand goes from my prostate up to my stomach because I had been in the emergency room twice the previous month. And it's rubbing and rubbing, and I feel this energy, and it's going around for about 30 minutes. 30 minutes. And then I hear him say to the other one, his stomach is okay now. Because they did a CAT scan and they found what might be a cancerous growth in the middle of my intestine. His stomach is okay now. Well, I finally figure out they're healing me, so in my mind I'm going, my mouth, heal my mouth, because I had some dental issues, and I heard him say to the other one, I'm not touching his mouth. I was like, okay, but I had to ask. I mean, hey. So then 2 days later, after Cynthia and I go back to Puyallup, I go in for the snake, the colonoscopy. And I wake up afterwards, and he went up my butt twice, and he said, it's not there. What was in your CAT scan isn't there. I can't find it. I went up your butt twice. Are you hearing me? They are healers. Did you hear Scott Taylor talk last night? He and his wife went to Soya, and they healed her. Kevin Beagle didn't share this during his presentation, but he was at Soya, and they healed him. I've had other people at Soya who've been healed. Mike Kincaid had an issue at SOA, and he was healed. Ladies and gentlemen, I have 8 or more people who've been to SOA or Soya who've been healed. Not just me. They're healers. That's BS. No, it's not. We're not lying. That's your denial. That's your issue. Don't you make your issue our issue. Then I had Andrea Billups up in SOA with me in October of 2015. And I tell everyone, but I told Andrea, you are a Navy SEAL. You're strong as steel. You don't get to freak out on the outside. You can freak out on the inside, but not the outside. And she was tough. And Andrea Billups, by the way, teaches journalism at a major university in the Southeast. She's been on presidential campaign tours. She's written for major periodicals. She's a credible person. She was up there, and we're standing at the 12 o'clock position at SOA, and we saw an 8-footer standing to our left and a 9-footer standing to our right. And she's almost breaking my hand, squeezing it really tight and saying, Matt, I'm a Navy SEAL on the outside, but I'm freaking out on the inside. That night we go to bed. She's in her cot. I'm in my cot. We have the tarp halfway up because it might rain. Middle of the night, I'm sleeping there, hoodie over my head, t-shirt over my eyes. It's a quirk I have. I always have to have t-shirts over my eyes. I've had that since I was a kid. And all of a sudden, I feel one tug with the tarp up to my shoulder, second tug over my head, third tug all the way to the ground. I go, Andrea, did you pull that tarp up? No answer. Andrea, did you pull that tarp up? No answer. So I take my t-shirt off, I pull the tarp up, I look at the porta potty behind us because I think she's too embarrassed to tell me she's on the porta potty. I look and she's not there. The next thing I'm thinking in my mind is I'm talking across the table from the Josephine County Sheriff's telling them I didn't bury a body anywhere. So now I'm going, Andrea, did you pull the tarp? Yes, Matt, what? She's a little gal, and she's curled up in a ball in the bottom of her sleeping bag. Yes, Matt. Andrea, did you pull the tarp over our heads? No, you just woke me up. She didn't do it. I didn't do it. Well, a month later, Mike Kincaid and I are up there. Mike gets a healing in November in his leg and his arm. And I'm laying on my cot, and I'm facing the truck. I'm on my left side. I'm 5 feet away from the truck. The parabolic microphone dish is on top of the cab of the truck. It's recording all night long. I know my guardian because at the end of October, when I took Andrea to the airport in Medford, Oregon, so she could fly away to go back to the school she teaches at, I was told by the Bigfoot Forest people in a mind speak that, I kept asking forever, can I have a teacher? Can I have a teacher? Can you give me a teacher? I want a teacher. And they finally responded to me by saying, you're our teacher. That's why we bring our kids to you. You're our teacher. You teach our kids. That was at the end of October. So Mike Kincaid and I are up there in November, and I'm sleeping on the left side, and I know I have a guardian, and I hear him standing at the head of my cot. And I wake up around 4 in the morning, and I have a t-shirt over my eyes, and in my mind I ask, are you still there? He walks between me and the truck. The parabolic microphone dish is on the cab of the truck. It's still recording. He leans over, and he says in my right ear, yes, right here beside you, in a squatchy tone of voice. So I knew I started recording at 8 o'clock sharp the night before, and I looked at my watch. I pulled off my t-shirt. He was cloaked. I couldn't see him. Looked at my watch. It was 4:05. I knew I started recording at 8 o'clock the night before. All I had to do was the math, go from 8 p.m. to 4, which is 8 hours, go 5 more minutes. I went home. I fast forwarded 8 hours and 5 minutes, and I got what you just heard. Yes, right here beside you. Now, he's not dumb. He knows I was recording. I asked the question in my mind. He could have responded telepathically, but he chose to walk between me and the truck, knowing I was recording, and responded audibly, yes, right here beside you. I have a guardian, and this right here is proof that mind speak exists. I asked the question in my mind, are you still there? He responded audibly, yes, right here beside you. Now, the next month, Cynthia and I went up to SOA. We dropped Grady off at his mom's house on Christmas morning, and we went up to spend Christmas evening in SOA. And then a couple days after that, the trolls crashed SOA. Trolls are trolls, haters are haters. Trolls and haters are going to do what they do because that's who trolls are. That's who haters are. They hate. They troll. They hate themselves. They hate other people. They can't handle the truth, and they do everything to suppress the truth because they're not able to handle the truth. That really hurt. Cynthia and I both cried. It felt like we both got kicked in the stomach. But shortly thereafter, I was given a vision from the Bigfoot Forest people. Go here and we'll give you a new place to go to. So they gave me a vision. Go here and we'll give you a new place to go to. Well, Cynthia was in Puyallup, Washington, and I was down in Grants Pass, Oregon. We're doing the long distance romance thing. And I take a mutual friend of ours, Jill Ligda, out with me because I like to have witnesses along so nobody can accuse me of making this crap up on my own. I always have witnesses with me. And we go out there and I follow this vision and we get led to a place where eventually, after a couple hours, this 50, 60-foot tree about this round we have stomp, 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 stomp down the hillside, about 60 feet down the hillside. And then we see this tree get pulled back and then pushed over right in front of our face. Both of us saw it. Then we see orbs, and we hear tree knocks, and we hear whistles. And we get a confirmation that that's where we're supposed to get moved to, just like I was promised. Go here, follow this vision, and we'll take you to a new place. Well, on our way out of there, I stop the truck, get out of my truck, turn around on the road, and snap 4 quick pictures because I want to show Cynthia, who's 400 miles to the north, the vision that the Bigfoot forest people gave me in my mind so she could see what I was given. So I get out of my truck and I take this picture, and off in the distance, you see an orb in the clouds. Next shot, you see the orb descend. Next shot, it's lower, and then it's up close and personal. Did you see that? Orb high in the clouds, coming down, up close and personal. Did you see that? That's not me making crap up. Trolls, moles, did you see that? You know, you who are out there spying for Stephen Strufert and the coalition, did you see that? Did you see that? Up high, coming down, there it is. I didn't make that up. And if you're accusing me of manipulating photography, you don't know who you're dealing with, right? Because I'm a retard when it comes to photography and computers and mechanics. You don't get to accuse me of manipulating this, because if you paid me $1 million, I couldn't do any CGI because I don't know how. That's real. Deal with it. So I snapped these pictures, and there's this orb descending as a confirmation that we were in the right spot. And Cynthia and I go and visit it, and I'm stealing some artistic work from Anita, who is Cynthia's roommate right now. Anita, wave your hand over there. There's Anita. She's a real good artist, so visit her booth, please. And while Cynthia and I are over in the new area, Seska passes me on to his cousin Onks, and Onks, who becomes my guardian in this new area, he engages me in a 2-hour mind speak. How many of you were here at last year's seminar? Raise your hands. Do you recall me telling you last year that Onks engaged me in a 2-hour mind speak, and I can't tell you what he told me, but I'll tell you when I can? Do you remember that? I can't hear you. Well, guess what? I can tell you now. Some of you want this to get over with right away. If you don't have any patience, you need to leave now, because this is going to take a while. Do you want the truth? I can't hear you. Okay, then you're going to be patient and you're going to hear all the truth. Unlike American TV, where you get to see a 30-minute TV show, this is not your 30-minute TV show. Okay, so Onks engaged me in a 2-hour mind speak in April of 2016, over a year ago, just over a year ago. And so Cynthia's sleeping, Onks wakes me up, and he shares with me the following. After he makes sure I wake up, and he says, do you remember the portal that you experienced in your other area with Adam and John? Do you remember that portal? And I said, yes. And he said, do you remember the red sky and the dark, scraggly vegetation that you were able to see? And I said, yes. And Onk said, that's our home world. That's our home world. And you need to understand that there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that you're not aware of. You are the first human on the planet who has repetitively opened up the portal over and over again. And so the elders have asked me to talk with you. So that's why I'm talking with you now. The elders have asked me to talk with you. You said, Onks told me during the 2-hour mind speak, that a long, long, long time ago, as in millions of years ago, an ancient alien civilization put portals on planets all over the universe. We're talking millions of years ago. An ancient civilization put portals on planets over 1,000,000 years ago. And some of us, not all of us, some of us, millions of years ago, were able to manipulate the portals and open them up and travel through them. So, our planet started to die because our sun was burning out. So our elders had the 25% of our population who were able to manipulate the portals and go through them. And you need to understand that they singularly were able to manipulate the portals and go through them. They weren't able to bring anyone else through the portal with them. They were only able to manipulate the portal, go through it themselves. No one else could go with them. That's it. Only themselves, and only 25% of the population could manipulate the portal and go through it. And they were told, because their planet was dying, because their sun was slowly burning out, that they needed to find another planet that they could colonize. So eventually, after visiting many planets, they found Earth a long time ago. And their elders agreed that it was time for the 25% who could manipulate the portals to go to Earth. The other 75% had to stay on their dying home world because they couldn't go through the portals. Ankh's told me we are all connected. What one knows, we all know. What one feels, we all feel. Now, how many of you have seen the Star Trek episode with the Borg? Do you remember the Borg? Okay, well, the Borg was a collective unit with the hive and pretty much the mother bee. And they were mindless drones who were all connected to the mother hive, right? The mother bee. It's not what the squatches are. Nevertheless, they're all connected. What one knows, they all know. What one feels, they all feel. But they're all individuals. They're not mindless drones like the Borg in Star Trek. But what one knows, they all know. And Ankh's told me that as time went by, there were still Bigfoot forest people who were born who were able to manipulate the portals and go back and forth between Earth and their home world. And keep in mind, it takes a long time for a sun to burn out, right? A sun doesn't burn out overnight, right? Sun, it takes millions of years, but eventually the sun burns out. The sun doesn't burn out in 100 years or 1,000 years. It takes a while, but it burns out. And their sun was burning out. In the meantime, they were traveling back and forth between Earth and their home world. And what one knows, they all know. What one feels, they all feel. So the ones that were traveling back and forth kind of functioned as a thumb drive, so to speak. A thumb drive. They would go back to the homeworld planet. What one knows, they all know, and they would kind of download the data, right? What one knows, they all know. What one feels, they all feel. And the ones on the home world would understand what the others on Earth were experiencing and feeling. But when they were visiting their home world, they would pick up or get downloaded what the ones on the home world were experiencing and feeling as well, because what one knows, they all know. What one feels, they all feel. Right? So the thumb drive would get downloaded from their home world and go back to Earth. Well, guess what? What they were experiencing in their home world was doom and gloom. Right? Depression, fear, because their sun was burning out. Their planet was dying. And they would take this information back to their people on Earth and download it all. What one knows, they all know. What one feels, they all feel. And they would feel what their family and friends were feeling back in their home world. Doom and gloom. Fear. The pending doom. Ankhs gave me about 30 seconds to feel that. I got 30 seconds of feeling an entire world, an entire species of what one feels, they all feel. And I felt their doom and gloom, and Ankhs exposed me to that. And he said, we need your help. You are the first human on planet Earth to repetitively reopen a portal. No one else has ever done that, and the elders have asked me to talk with you. We are a natural people. Have you watched the movie Avatar? Have you seen Avatar? Right? They're naturally connected to their world, and then the humans show up and mine and rape the planet and blow things up. Remember the movie? Okay? The Bigfoot forest people are a natural people. They're inclined to be in tune with their environment. They're not like us. They are a natural people in tune with their environment, and we are a technological people. And Ankhs told me that they had been waiting for us to develop technologically so we could help them with their portal, so we could help them to get their remaining family and friends through the portal to Earth, the ones who could not manipulate the portal. Because remember what I told you earlier, only one could get through the portal themselves. None of them could take anyone else through them, with them. So they were waiting for us to develop technologically, and during World War II, they started seeing evidence of us developing as a species technologically. So their elders developed a game plan. I know, by the way, I'm going to stipulate this before I continue. This sounds freaking crazy. It does. It sounds Looney Tunes, it sounds delusional, it sounds psychotic, but it's the truth. I don't make crap up. I don't lie. I'm not delusional. I'm not psychotic. I don't do drugs. You just saw all these witnesses up here with me. You've seen my circumstantial evidence. You've heard my audio recordings, including, yes, right here beside you. I don't make this crap up. It's all real. You don't want to believe it. That's your issue. It's not my issue. So Ankhs said, you guys are developing technologically, and we started implementing a game plan back in the late 50s. So they started putting tracks all over to get our attention, to get the attention of the human race. Who is this? Okay? They wanted to get our attention. And then eventually, this was filmed. Now, I asked Ankhs during the Mind Speak, I said, I have a question. May I ask a question? He said, yes. I said, how do you cloak? And Ankhs said, our vibrational frequency is higher than yours. And your visual field of spectrum cannot see us in our natural state of existence. We're not actually cloaked, you just can't see us. So they could be right next to you. You can't see them, but you can reach out and you can feel them. And I have on 2 occasions. Couldn't see them, but I could feel them. Others have come to my research area. They couldn't see them, but they could feel them. Because their vibrational frequency is higher than ours and it's outside our visual field of range. But Ankhs also said, but your dogs and cats can see us. Your dogs and cats can see us. They're cones and rods, and their eyes are different than yours, and they can see us. And your cameras, Your cameras, they can capture us. Your human eyes can't see us, but your cameras can capture us, but your cameras don't get a complete picture because of our vibrational frequency, which is why you get blurry pictures. Because of our vibrational frequency is higher than yours. So if you're sitting out there wondering, why can't we get a real clear picture of the Bigfoot and the forest people? Why are the pictures always blurry? I just answered your question. Onks just answered your question. Onks just answered your question. And if you've been in your house and your dog's barking at something you can't see, or your cat's looking at something you can't see, think about it. I've had that happen on numerous occasions. So Onks answered that question of mine, and he told me that their game plan was to put tracks all over to get the attention of the human race, and then eventually they heard about this Patterson-Gimlin couple who were going down to Northern California, so they had Patty waiting for them. And no, I'm not making this crap up. This was the mind speak. This is the real deal. And Onks told me that they had Patty slow down her vibrational frequency on purpose. They had Patty slow down her vibrational frequency on purpose so she could be seen. Now, I want you to think about this. Then Onks told me they had her meander on down the creek forever and ever so they could keep filming her and filming her and filming her and filming her. Onks told me she didn't cloak to get out of the picture, right? They didn't want her to get out of the picture. She slowed down her vibrational frequency so Patterson and Gimlin could film her and film her and film her and film her. And look, Onks also told me she didn't take a left and go into the brush and the trees to get out of there, which she could have right there. Do you see that? She didn't do that to elude them. She kept walking down the middle of the creek so they would film her. They wanted Patterson and Gimlin to film her. They wanted that. They set it up. There was an agenda. There was a purpose for it. What was that purpose, Onks? Because they wanted the human race to start looking for them. They wanted the human race to look for them. They put their eggs in several baskets. They wanted all of us to start coming out into the woods to start looking for them. And you see a funnel, and a funnel narrows down. Okay? My analogy, being a basketball player, is you got all kinds of grade school kids that play basketball, and then when you get to middle school, some of those kids get cut. You get to high school, more of those kids get cut. You get to college, more of those kids get cut. And then 1% or less of those college kids make it into the NBA. And then you get into the NBA, and there's only enough of them that make 2 NBA All-Star teams. And then out of the 2 NBA All-Star teams, only a few of them make the dream team for the Olympics. And then out of the dream team for the Olympics, only one becomes the MVP. Do you understand the funnel effect? The Bigfoot forest people created a game plan. They wanted us to find tracks. They wanted Patterson and Gimlin to film Patty. She stayed in the middle of Bluff Creek forever and ever while they filmed her walking away. She could have gone to the trees and the brush. She didn't. She could have cloaked. She didn't. She stayed in a lower vibrational frequency so they could film her forever, get her tracks, because they wanted us to come looking for them. Now, why did they want us to come looking for them? Because they wanted some of us who were looking for them to understand that they weren't dumb giant mountain apes, but they were actually a sentient being. They were a people. And then, out of all of us who were there looking for them and understanding that they weren't dumb giant mountain apes and they were people, that some of us would come across a portal. And then when we came across a portal, and I know, I'm not speaking for you, but I know people have told me that they came across a portal and freaked out and never went back. They came across a portal, freaked out, and never went back. They were hoping that some of us would come across a portal, not freak out, and keep coming back, and eventually figure out how to reopen the portal. And then after figuring out how to reopen the portal, hopefully, we would help them create a shunt, because they're not a technological people. They needed our help technologically to help them create a shunt, because they needed help for us to help them get the remaining survivors on their home world over to Earth. Onks kept saying, we need a shunt, we need a shunt. Can you help us with a shunt? Now, if anybody knows Matt Johnson, i.e. me, then you know I am not technologically inclined. I'm not somebody who can do construction. I cannot work with my hands. If you know me, you know I have no gift at all. You do not want me building the bridge that you drive over. You do not want me building the skyscraper that you go in. That's not me. I'm a good psychologist. I help people with their problems, but when it comes to my hands, that's not me. I'm a good problem solver, but I'm not a good builder. So when Onks kept saying, we need a shunt, we need a shunt, we need a shunt, I had no idea what he meant by we need a shunt, because that word was not in my vocabulary. Seriously, it wasn't. I was thinking a stent. You need a stent, because I knew a stent was something to keep the heart valves open, right? A stent. Well, what the heck was a shunt? Well, it turns out if you go online and you look up the definition of a shunt, it's one place to another to keep it open. It has nothing to do with the heart or medical. It's about keeping, electronically the energy between this point and this point flowing. So Onks was talking with me about a shunt in his vocabulary, right? An English word that wasn't in mine. Come on, Matt, you're a doctor of psychology. Well, that doesn't mean I know every word in the English language. We need a shunt. And eventually, people who look for us, that understand we're a people, get exposed to the portals, eventually learn how to reopen it and help us with a shunt, will help us with the Exodus. Exodus? Yeah, Exodus. We'll get there. So then I asked Onks, he said, will you help us? Will you help us with the shunt? And I said, yes, but then I started thinking, who am I to make this decision to help them? And keep in mind, this is 2016, and then I thought, well, who says these idiots are capable of making that decision? Why am I putting that decision into the hands of these idiots? Who says I can't make that decision? And this is where the trolls and the moles are going, do you hear his arrogance? He made this decision for the human race. He made this decision. He didn't turn it over to Obama or Hillary or Trump. My response is, you're idiots if you put your trust in these people. I'm perfectly capable of making that decision just as they are. So I didn't need to turn it over to them. Onks wasn't talking to them. They didn't learn how to reopen the portal. I did. They weren't asking them for help. They were asking me for help. And I made the decision. Even though I asked them, how do I know that you're not going to use me to help everyone else to come through the portal and annihilate the human race? And Onk's response was, when have we ever done that? Historically, when have we ever done that? We have been kind and gentle and peaceful with the human race. We have never annihilated anybody. And if we wanted to annihilate the human race, you all would have been gone a long time ago. Which Onks had a good point. Because if they wanted to, we all would have been gone a long time ago. So that fear of them annihilating the human race and these idiots making the decision was a no-brainer. I could make the decision because I was the one they were asking for help, not these idiots. And Onks told me we all come from the same God. We all have the same souls. We have different bodies, but we all have the same souls and we all come from the same gods. Onks said, you guys rob each other, fight with each other, rape each other, kill each other, go to war with each other. We don't do that. And then I asked Onks, before our mind speak ended, I asked, why can't we see you? And that's when he told me about the whole cloaking thing. That's when he told me that we vibrate at a higher frequency than you guys do, and we're outside your visual field of range. And dogs can see us, and cats can see us, and cameras can capture us, but your human eyes can't see us. And we have to slow down our vibrational frequency for you to see us. Which, by the way, if you were listening to earlier presentations, fits what was provided to you in earlier presentations regarding quantum physics and the visual field of spectrum. You heard Joe Hauser talk about it. You heard Samantha talk about it. You heard Ron Moorhead talk about it. You heard Alyssa Runs with Wolves talks about it. You heard the presenters talk about it. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, Nikola Tesla. So after the 2-hour mind speak that I told you guys last conference that I had, but I couldn't tell you about what happened, but I'm telling you now because I was told I can. After that 2-hour mind speak is over, I'm laying on my cot underneath the stars. Cynthia's still sleeping, and I'm going, whoa. Seriously. Whoa. How would you respond if that happened to you? Whoa. I'm laying under the stars. Whoa. Cynthia and I drive back from Southern Oregon to Puyallup, Washington. We leave a day early. I say, Cynthia, I'll tell you when we hit I-5. Crazy stuff's going on. Let's just pack up and get out of here. Okay? Well, while we were down in Southern Oregon, I forgot to tell you this, we were in my private practice office and I did an interview with Connie Willis on Coast to Coast AM over the weekend. Bob Gimlin was on before me. He spoke for 3.5 hours. Bob Gimlin never speaks for 3.5 hours. But he did that night, so I got 30 minutes at the end. But I got 30 minutes and enough time to talk about SOA and the portal and reopening it and all the things that happen with the portal. Well, there was a gentleman listening to the show, and he was a retired physicist who worked with MIT, right? You know what MIT is, right? His name was Robert Golka. And he was listening to the show, and he called me up. He actually emailed, and then we talked on the phone. And he said, what you're describing about the portal and SOA actually fits what I've been studying for years with the Bermuda Triangle, which I believe is, he's saying this, which I believe is a huge portal in the ocean. And I want to talk with you about this portal and SOA. So, okay. So I talk with him about the portal and SOA, and then I talk about the 2-hour mind speak with Onks, and I ask him if he could help be a part of our team because Onks wanted me to assemble a team to help create a shunt for the portal. And Robert Golka said, sure, okay, because last year, if you remember, I told you a physicist who worked with MIT contacted me. This is the guy right here, Robert Golka. I have his phone number in my cell phone if you don't believe me. I have his phone number in my cell phone if you don't believe me. So he and I talk, and he wants to help. He wants to be a part of the team. And then I call him 2 weeks later to update him on what's going on. And he says, hey, send me that device, and I'll see if I can tweak it, tune it, and adjust it so we can kill one of those Bigfoot forest people and bring the body in and improve it for once and for all. Exactly. I'm like, what? Well, the guy's 85, right? So I'm thinking dementia, Alzheimer's. Or I'm thinking the guy is playing both sides of the fence and he thought I was somebody else, right? Or I'm thinking he thinks I'm an idiot, so he's trying to get rid of me. But no matter how you look at it, this guy is not going to be a part of my team, and I never called him back. That was it. Never called him back. But now I'm back at square one, the guy who knows nothing about mechanics, engineering, the guy who's a psychologist, who wears his heart on his sleeve and helps people with their problems, but can't fix a dang thing. I have no team. And I get emails all the time. And get emails all the time, and I'll get there in just a second. But after this, I'm shaving one morning in the bathroom. And I get this mind speak from Onks. You need to come out to our area, the new area right now, the one with the descending orb. You need to come out right now. And I'm like, Onks, I have a private practice and I'm seeing several clients. And on top of that, my son has a baseball game. I cannot come out there today. I'm busy. I didn't hear from him again that day. The next morning, I wake up and he says, you don't have any private practice clients today. Your son doesn't have a game today. You need to come out here. So I'm like, okay, I'll come out there. So I come out there to this new area with a descending orb and the tree pushed over and wood knocks and everything else, confirming that that's the place I need to be. And I'm there for an hour and a half and nothing happens. And during that hour and a half, I pick up some garbage because some people are stupid and pollute the wilderness, and I want to throttle them when I see the garbage out there. So I pick up some garbage and throw it in the back of my truck, and I'm sitting out there and I read from the scriptures. The Bigfoot Forest people love it when I read from the scriptures, especially the New Testament, the Gospels. Some people say, they're demonic. Shut up. No, they're not. They actually love the Lord, and they actually love the scriptures. No, they're not. They're not demonic. Shut up. They are not demonic. They love it. So I pick up garbage. I read the scriptures. Hour and a half goes by. Nothing happens. And I'm like, okay, I'm leaving. So I'm leaving. I'm driving away in my truck. And then Onk says, stop your truck and pick up the garbage on the side of the road. I'm like, I'm not going to stop my truck. I picked up enough garbage. Somebody else can pick that up. I am leaving. You called me out here. Nothing happened. I'm leaving. He said, stop your truck and pick up the garbage. So I stopped my truck. I killed the engine. I opened up the door. I got out and I picked up the garbage and I found this note. I picked up garbage, threw it in the back of the truck, and then I saw a crumbled up piece of paper. I uncrumbled it and I read this note. This trailer is on camera regarding, and pictures are being taken of you, your truck, and your plate number. If you return, this will be turned into the Oregon State Police if I don't shoot you. Wow. Ankh said, it's time to move you on to a new spot. That's why he called me out there. He wanted me to see this note. I'm like, if I don't shoot you. Okay, so I left the area. Ankh said they'd take me to a new area. I went straight to and he gave me a vision, by the way, of the new area. And I went straight to the Oregon State Police. And I showed them the note. And I asked if anyone turned in my truck, the license plate, etc. He said, the state police said no. But in light of your note, we encourage you to find a new camping spot. And by the way, that's not our jurisdiction. That's the jurisdiction of the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management. You need to go to their office. So I went to their office after I went to the Oregon State Police. And the BLM had me pinpoint on Google Earth where my spot was. Are you sure this is your spot? Yes, that is my spot. Then he hit a button and another program overlaid that spot and he said, oh. And I said, what do you mean, oh? And he said, actually all around you is BLM land, but right where you are, that's private property. What? You mean that's all BLM except this little tiny sliver? Yep, that's private property. Well, who owns it? I don't know. Could be Josephine County, could be a timber company, could be private. I don't know. It's private property, but I don't know. But whoever wrote the note made it pretty clear that they're going to be violent with you if you keep coming back, so I would advise you to move on. So the Oregon State Police advised me to move on. Ankh's advised me to move on. The BLM advised me to move on. So guess what? I moved on. So a couple days later, I get up. I don't have any clients. Grady doesn't have a baseball game. And I'm in my truck and I'm meandering through the logging roads in southern Oregon. Now, I could get on the highway and I could get to my spot faster, but I love the logging roads in southern Oregon. They're not like the logging roads in Washington that are controlled by private companies and private parties. They're controlled by the BLM. You can go forever in southern Oregon. And so I'm going forever through these logging roads, meandering, enjoying the views and the peace and quiet and no human beings. And I'm driving, and then I see this side road. And I take a right and I go down the side road, and Ankh says in my mind, what are you doing? I'm just looking down here to see if there's a spot for a good, area. And he said, I showed you where to go. Go there. Okay. So I got back on the main road, and I'm driving, and then I take a left. And he goes in my mind, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going down here to see if there's a nice spot for a research area. I showed you where to go. Go there. Okay, so I get back on the main road, and I'm driving, and if you haven't figured it out yet, I am messing with Sasquatch. I am intentionally, playfully pushing his buttons. So I drive a little farther, I take a right. Where are you going? I'm just checking. Get back on the road and go where I told you to go. So eventually I got to my area where I was supposed to go. And Ankh said, here you are. This is where you're supposed to be. So I'm driving down the logging road a couple miles, and there's a road on the left, and guess what? I turn left. And I start driving down the road, and Ankh goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm just looking down there to see if there's a new area that I could have as a base camp. I already showed you. You've already been to the area you're supposed to be. I said, I'm fine. He said, if you go down that road, something bad is going to happen. I said, I got you on my side. I got Maggie on my side, which is my .44 Magnum handgun, which I call Maggie. I'm good. Nothing's going to happen. So I drive down that side road about a mile. I stop my truck. I kill my truck, and Zeus and I get out of the truck, and we go explore this meadow, this grassy area surrounded by all these trees and brush, and I'm thinking, this is an awesome spot for a base camp. I get back into the truck. I start up my truck. The dashboard is screaming at me, flat tire. Ankh says, I told you something bad would happen. And I'm like, crap. So now I'm looking through my truck for the equipment to change my flat tire, and the sun is going down, and I can't find it. I pull out the owner's manual. I'm looking in the spots where that stuff is supposed to be, and it's not there. Sun is still going down. And Ox said, if you go down there, something bad's going to happen. I need to get off this freaking mountain now. So I start crawling down the mountainside with this flat tire going about 5 miles an hour. Zeus is on my lap. The driver's window is down. Zeus is looking out the window. And we're going 5 miles an hour, and Zeus is looking there, and all of a sudden he's going, and he's looking at something while we're driving by it. I can't see anything, but he sees something. He's growling at it. I eventually had some cell phone reception, and I called a friend of mine who showed up at the bottom of the mountain with the proper equipment to change the flat tire. I learned after that lesson, no more messing with Sasquatch. Joe Ligda and I went back up to the area later. We went for a walk. When we came back to the base camp, this freshly snapped branch was waiting for us. It wasn't there when we were in the base camp, but it was waiting for us when we got back to the base camp. There was no wind, there was no snow, there was no natural explanation for it other than something rather large pulled that off a tree and put it there. Also, while we were there, we found a 3-foot turd between two 26-inch tracks. If you have yet to go over to the display case against the wall over there, that shellacked, dried out 3-foot turd right by Kevin Beagle, thank you Vanna White, is right there. I guarantee you it wasn't a squirrel. It was a 3-foot turd between two 26-inch tracks. It was hot and steamy to the touch. And Zorth gave me a mind speak saying, that's for you. Now some of you are like, what? But I want you to think about this. Zorth knew that I like collecting circumstantial evidence. He knew that was important to me. So he gave me a 3-foot turd for evidence. I took a couple weeks to dry it out, took a couple cans of shellac, and it's preserved right over there if you haven't seen it yet. Guarantee you that's not a squirrel, not a deer. And there is a pile of black bear scat right next to it for comparison. And it was between two 26-inch tracks. This shoe right here, that's my shoe, that's a size 16 shoe. This size 16 shoe is 14 and a half inches long. This shoe here, this size 16 shoe is not a baby booty like your shoe. You just insulted. Now I'm just saying that I'm a big guy, you're not. My foot's much bigger than yours, yet my foot looks small, does it not? That's what I'm saying. You may think you have a big foot. You don't have a big foot. I do, and my big foot is still small. So Cynthia and I go there, and we went to the Oregon House of Mystery. We got the juju on, and we found what appeared to be a portal in the area. Now, while we were up there, I'm sleeping on the cot, and I'm kind of dreaming about Onks introducing me to his uncle, who has this huge hand on the back of my head. The palm of the hand is on the base of my skull, and the fingers are all the way up on my forehead. Now keep in mind, I'm 6'9". I can palm a basketball, yet my hand at the base of my skull, look how far. It doesn't go up very far. The hand that was on my head in the dream went all the way up to my forehead. That's a big hand. Now this big hand in my dream is gently squeezing my head affectionately. And then all of a sudden I wake up from this dream and this hand is still gently squeezing my head. I'm no longer dreaming, I'm awake, and this hand is still on my head, gently squeezing my head. And then I hear whispering in my ear, Zorth. And I go, is that your name? Zorth is your name? And in mind speak, yes.